I like to be happy, yes. I like to be happy very much. I like very much to be happy. You could say, right, successful, millionaire, 3 beautiful children, my health, all these material things around me. Why aren't you happy?
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Peter Sellers sings Peter Sellers.
From the main engine room where Miss Raquel Welsh has informed me that we're doing a speed of 11 knots. Things are pretty sweaty down there at the moment, most things. And there was a little commotion, as you probably noticed, but I think that everything's under control. It's good on a ship like this to know everything is under control, because if it wasn't under control, it would be over control. And, well, we all know what that means. At least I must look it up sometime myself. Here is the great white bongo drum. Now, the officers of the watch play the ship into the berth, rather like this. If you excuse me while I put my camera down here, they go. And then they do it, you see, they don't do it in a West Indian language or dialect. They do it in English, and they say, here we are, coming along. Isn't it good? See, which is known as the Cunard bongo, or think lucky and you'll be lucky.
Lighted cigarette over the ship's side. There is always a grave danger of landing on a bed and causing serious damage.
I don't like this. I don't like this a bit. Have a look, John.
What, is it one of ours?
I don't know. I don't know. Could be, easily. Have a look. See what you think, man.
Good Lord, no, I don't like it.
I don't like it at all.
No, I don't know.
I don't think we ought to say anything to the passengers about it, do you?
Well,
No, I don't think so. Keep it to ourselves, this one.
Fact is, just the 3 of us know that we're in dry dock. Last. A friend of mine once said that he believed that this torch that is held in the hand by the Statue of Liberty contains the headquarters of the FBI. They live in there. In fact, that's their office. To get to their office, they have to travel down the arm. It causes a form of coronary thrombosis. You don't notice it because there are doctors working in there all the time. Not that we have anything against the Statue of Liberty. As you know, the Statue of Liberty was originally won at the Battle of Trafalgar by Lord Nelson in his famous battle against the combined Turkish and Egyptian armies. I think it was towed by a frog here, but I think Lord Nelson had something to do with it. I think he got it actually as a sort of objet d'art for Lady Hamilton. That was the so-called Liberty because of the passage of Liberty, which runs directly beneath it. You don't see it from here because we're above it, and so the passage of Liberty, not many people know about this, leads directly into New York, and only those people directly concerned with coming directly out of New York and directly in would know of its existence. I want to get my image across in the best possible way. Right. And going on at 5 in the morning, I feel that I may be reaching too few. I mean, I may be reaching a smaller audience than I could reach at a later hour, like 9. 9 o'clock, maybe I could reach...
9 in the morning?
Yeah.
But going on in the morning like this, where practically nobody watches.
Right.
You see?
Oh.
In a sense.
I get what you're driving at.
Yeah. Can bury your career to an extent that we can then bring it up to where it never should have been. Here's the way I'm going to handle you, Pete, and I think it's right. You know what Peter Sellers is going to do for the next 3 years?
What?
Nothing.
No.
Cut.
Like that?
Leave them wanting more. The first rule of vaudeville, right?
Right.
They will want you, the begging, the clinging, the whining, the dining, right?
Right.
Then you come back.
And?
Nothing. Again, for another 3 years.
I just want to relax. I want to enjoy myself.
You know what we're going to do
I want
tonight?
to take in this great town. I want to see it for all it's worth. I want you to show me what New York means to you as a person, because, I mean, I love it. I love it here. And I never get a chance to get to grips with it.
To me,
What?
New York is a woman. Now, as it happens, I don't care for them.
If you have, in fact, 13 heart attacks, one in a row, and the supply of blood to the brain is stopped for a maximum period of 2 minutes, I think something must happen. They did tell me that I suffered no brain damage at all. But I'm pretty sure deep down, and this is something only I know, that I come across these periods of blankness, of loss of memory. But I do remember one thing clearly, a feeling. And the feeling was that I wouldn't expire, I wouldn't actually die. Because I remember there being a sort of large arm. I can only describe it, that if you think of a whole era of blackness, now imagine an arm, bare arm, but a very strong arm, and pulling you for you to hold on to it, an outstretched arm. And you hold this arm says, in its own way, you can feel it saying, I won't let you go, I won't let you go. And I held on to this arm, and I knew as long as I had that arm that I wouldn't die.
Peter frequently stretches out his hand to try and help someone. And the trouble is that he knows that every living thing will eventually drag him down. He sees himself as a clean person in a colony of lepers, and he can't afford to mix with them too much if he's to come out clean again. He knows that within him is such a large area of unexplored emotionalism that he can't afford to take any risks if he is to survive. If he did, he'd spill out all his emotions to such an extent that he'd drown himself. So he lives in perpetual fear. He's always on the edge of ferment, of tears, of hysteria. And he knows he's caught. Yes, the actual business of living has made him afraid.
Hello, this is Pewsby Tukes again from The Mermaid.
Display television.
Yes, this
I
is
just
the,
want that's all I can't.
Are you're touring around,
Yes,
are you?
I'm an English tourist. I was wondering if this was the English television.
This is going to
Coronation
be,
Street. Is it Coronation Street?
No, this is called The Life of and Times of Peter Sellers or something like that.
Oh,
The
him.
Yes, yes. The
Oh,
great
him.
problem is that we can't find him. I've tried, I've been looking around all over the place.
That microphone moved then. That wouldn't be him, would it, down there? That big one down there.
Just a moment, I'm not sure. Come on out of there. We know you're in there. No, he's not in there, no. No, that's stretching it a bit far for him.
You think so?
I mean, in the nicest possible way.
I see.
Peter's a freak, not a genius, a freak, which makes him even more unique. Which one of these is the real Peter Sellers?
And I'm not the real Peter Sellers. I am, in fact, a mock-up, a plastic mock-up. I'm beginning to think that increasingly every day as I look at myself in what I laughingly call the mirror. It is another copy of myself who I leave at home to do the housework because I can't get any servants.
If he'd have been born in the time of Barnum and Bailey, Peter would have been in a freak show.
A man with 100 different faces and 100,000 voices. Name a voice, sir. I'll give you £1 for every voice I can't do. What do you want? North Country? Bark.
Peter can do the lot. He's that prolific. His ability to reproduce another character is so startling that he himself must have some kind of misshapenness inside him. Once, when I was on the stage with him, he came on every night as a different person. It was almost unholy. One night he came on as a German hunchback with mange. Another night he came on as a queer. And as I looked at him, I realized it wasn't Peter at all. It really was a queer.
How many bottles am I going to let you steal from me?
3.
Oh.
And an opener.
And an opener. 3 and an opener.
He's always had to play the character real. If he played Hitler, he'd possibly finish up at the bunker and commit suicide, because he'd have no other choice. That's what makes him mad, you know. Peter could be every living, breathing thing. Am I Spike Milligan, or am I Peter Sellers doing the voice of Spike Milligan? Will the real Peter Sellers please stand up? Not until he's dead.
Would you give me some money? Really girly, she loves a girl and she loves a girl, a burly whirly girl.
Only thing that ruins this show are the dogs. If we didn't have these dogs here, we could have a lovely day. Cheers. Happy New Year.
Peter must be the most complex simpleton in the entire world.
Cheese.
First there was Hitler, who liked Wagner, children, flowers and sunsets. And then the bastard goes and murders 6 million Jews. Now, Peter's biggest rage is that he can't be violent. Unlike Hitler, Peter can't work off his madness. It's all bottled up in him. But don't mistake him. He's full of rage, the rage of a murderer. And yet he's too kind and too good to actually knife anybody. But just supposing he did, he'd be free, man. So he never will be happy. Never be at peace. He has no now happiness at all. He's got to have the past to bolster up the present so he can even look at the future. He even takes bad memories from the past and gets a sort of inverted happiness out of them. As long as they were in the past, it's okay. They were all wrapped up and finished with. And Peter can still get the illusion of security because he's come through that period alive.
I have been disappointed so many times in people that I've become not, most certainly not bitter, but I tend to approach people very warily in case they're going to clobber me. I find I get clobbered a lot.
He cries for yesterday, and this has made him very lonely. All his physical contact with other people are falling away. The people he relies on, whether male or female, are just pale representations of those he relied on in the past. This constant journeying of his to New York, Copenhagen, Switzerland, Mallorca, is at the essence of it. Like a panther in a cage, pacing backwards and forwards for eternity. Peter's isolated. It's like going to a deserted island and in the middle of the island, finding a lake with a deserted island in the middle of it. He's that lonely. He's at lonely now. The whole thing has made him desperate. He's now desperate to be successful, desperate to be wanted, desperate to be happily married, desperate not to destroy his past. It's all desperation. He is desperation. His problems all started very simply. Peter was brought up to believe, like most of us, that people are nice. So, if someone told him off, he couldn't understand it. From then on, they were the enemy, particularly anybody in uniform. And they had to be destroyed, otherwise Peter couldn't survive. If a BBC commissioner said to him, "Put that cigarette out," Sellers would go out of his mind. He'd light 20 cigarettes, toss them around the room and say, "Go on," he'd say, "Call the police, call God, call John Snagg." It's a desperate cry for justice, really. But this poor chap couldn't understand what was going on inside Peter's mind. In his film, The Magic Christian, for example, this situation has actually come to life. Sellers offers a traffic warden £500 to eat the parking ticket he just put on Peter's car.
What do you mean? You're willing to give me 500 quid?
Yes, to eat that ticket.
Eat that ticket?
Is what you might call a limited offer, expiring in, should we say, what, I don't know, 10 seconds?
You must be bleeding mad. Give me that.
We had to create the Goon Show. In a fantasy world, you can invent all the characters you want to knock the shit out of. And you always win because you are writing the script. You can't get arrested in a fantasy unless you want it. Nobody can make you park in a fantasy. For anyone who found reality a bug like Peter did, the Goon Show was sheer therapy. Neddy Seagoon was all the idiots who Peter hated. He could be struck, clubbed, burnt, drowned, boiled and nailed to a cross, and Peter would love it. For him, the characters were real and they came alive.
Let that be a lesson to you!
For years, he has stuck idiots. Idiot producers who've ruined wonderful material. Idiot managers who told him he couldn't act. Idiot BBC officials who treated him like a naughty boy. And he won't take it anymore. He just won't take it. And every official who gets ignored by Peter is not only paying for his own idiocy, he's paying for all the idiots in all of Peter's past life. In a sense, every character that he portrays is part of his revenge. He's mocking those who've mocked him, especially those cultural snobs who Peter hated.
Well, now you've tasted it, could you tell us what it is?
Yes, most certainly. Well, it's certainly not a grand wine, and yet I wouldn't say that it was an innocent wine. I was stirred by it, but not shaken by it. Let me say that it might possibly be a Bertard Montrachet 64. I would think this Bertard Montrachet 64.
No, it's not.
It isn't?
No.
Good Lord. Isn't Bertard Montrachet 64? Then my... It's not a Chablis, is it?
No.
Not Chablis, no. I'm right in assuming that it isn't, of course, Sauternes or Champagne.
No.
No. 7-Up, is it?
No.
Is it water?
No.
Milk, is it milk?
No, it's not milk.
Jam?
No.
What is it, then?
In fact, it is half a Scotch egg.
Good Lord. What year is it?
So the Goon Show liberated us all. From it has sprung everything. The entire revolution among the young, and the people in power don't know what's hit them. All they can say is, look at that long-haired lout. Why doesn't he get his hair cut? Peter's tragedy was that he was a singular talent who became caught up in the collective art. He realized that he had to go into films, even if the film world did contain more idiots than anywhere else, in order to get enough money to make his Goon Show revenge actually happen. He had to make 97 films a year so that he could say to those who still bawled him out, piss off. Because that's what the world is all about, Daddy-O. Those who can say piss off and get away with it, and those who can't. Young people followed suit, and they're all saying it now. They're saying piss off to a dead world, dead politics, all finished. And I tell you, if we'd have been an organisation, we'd have been raided in the night, knock on the door, next day prison. But you can't arrest an attitude of mind, and Peter is that attitude of mind. In getting to that position, however, he's suffered terribly. But he's there now, and he's saying, all right, Daddy-O, from now on, I'm screwing you. And he does. Once he'd got in the seat, he'd paid enough. He'd got enough in credit to destroy all the idiots for the rest of his life. Left to them, left to royal showbiz, he wouldn't have existed.
Hello. Norrington pukes again.
You find yourself sitting in a chair and people are crowding around saying, what? He's bound to come up with something any second. I mean, he's jolly funny. I mean, I know he's funny. I've seen him being funny, but I mean, it's only a matter of time. He'd probably feel, sort of turn away from it and then turn around when he's sort of being funny. Or someone will ease over and say, do us one of those funny things we do on the films, or something like that. What funny things? Well, I don't know. I mean, I saw you doing a funny thing in a film once. Do us one of those. Being thrown for you. Mr. Sells, will you come here? We'd love to have you over. So eventually you go to the party you hope that will quench all the thirst of all the various people who want to see you. because that's what your agent says. You arrive there, there's all the photographers in the world, all the press agents in the world, your own agent. They give you the famous cliche, you know, this is your town, baby, you can buy it. And a very odd, strange thing that happens, they shake hands with you, look at you closely in the eyes for a few seconds, and while you're saying, and I'm very pleased to meet you, you notice their eyes wander over your shoulder to see who else is coming in the room.
You plan to start a family soon?
Yeah.
When do you hope that? Do you have any dates or?
Soon.
Can I ask you very honestly?
I love it. Love the publicity.
Ask one question.
Fun.
Is she expecting?
Are you? No, she's not expecting anything.
But you hope to start a family soon?
Flowers.
That's not his
Scoot.
You probably noticed that we're still on board the QE2. This is the tourist lounge, and outside, as you can see, the sea is pretty calm. Just one or two planes that have been forced down, but aside from that, I think we can look forward to a very pleasant trip. We should be arriving in New York in about 10 minutes' time. So why don't you come with us into the VIP lounge and enjoy a VIP. Hello. Hello once again. This is Thugbold Coons speaking to you from the stage of the Theatre Royal Stratford East, where we are about to witness the play Hamlet. How is it possible to align sex with Shakespeare? Well, as we all know, there is an awful lot of sex in Shakespeare. Let's quote Richard III to begin with. But I that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph. Now, what is, in fact, Shakespeare getting at? He does mean that his sexual member is rather small and therefore, and misshapen, in fact, as he says, and needs to have an erection in order for it to strut, as he says, before a wanton ambling nymph. Well, in fact, that's what he means. I mean, we are living in a permissive society, so it's all right for me to say these things, even on the BBC, but in to be or not to be, and that is the question. Does he mean, we must ask ourselves, does he mean to be homosexual or does he not? I'll leave that to you, the viewers, to decide when you see this amazing film. So just for now, just before the curtain goes up, Thugbold Coons taking you back to the studio. Come in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Move. 1, 2, 3, 4.
To be. Or not to be. That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. And by opposing end them. For who could bear the whips and scorns of time?
Solace's idea of a joke.
The charismatic Christian, really did something very strange for him. It gave him the chance to express what he felt about the human race in a commercial film. It's about a multi-millionaire called Guy Grand who goes around destroying other people's small-mindedness and snobbery by simply fooling them and then buying them off. I mean, the idea of people jumping into a vat full of shit outside the Royal Festival Hall just to get some free money seems a perfect example of the idiocy of mankind. The whole thing could have been written about Peter instead of for him, because deep down, he too has little regard for the morality of the human race.
When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. But now these days are gone, I'm not so self-assured. Alas, my life has changed in oh so many ways. My independence seems to vanish in the haze. Help us if you can. We are feeling down, and we do appreciate your being round. Help us get our feet back on the ground, won't you? Please, please help us. The church beetle will pass among you, and no foreign coins, please.
It's like digging for gold in a mine where there isn't any gold at all. You just have to keep digging because that's the only way to get in the general direction of Peter. He never says anything that gives anybody a clue to his personality. It's like interviewing a ghost. Will he turn up tonight, emotionally? All you can do is to watch him.
He says, what are you doing down there, you horrible little filthy little dirty horrible little soldier? What are you doing down there? I said, nothing, sir, Major. You stand up and attention when you talk to me. What do you mean? There's nothing, sir, Major. Stand up there, you horrible filthy little horrible soldier. He said, well, I went down the cave down the road and I'll give the girl Anna Frank note and she didn't give me no change. She said, what are you talking about? She didn't give me no change. How dare you tell me she didn't give me no change? What are you talking about? Stay on attention when you're telling me she gave me no change. Where is this cave? So he says, well, it's down in the village, so Major. He said, it's your lucky day, isn't it? It's your lucky day. You bumped into me. Right. Come on, it's left, right, pick him up there, let's get down there, come on. Right, come on, pick him up there, come on. Yeah, all right, so. Yeah, left wheel, no, right wheel, right, there, here we go, now. It's the cave. So, yeah, yes, sir, mate. He said, right, now then. We get inside out, stand at Heath, and I'll do the talking, right? He said, what, you give Anna Frank note? I said, yeah, I'll give Anna Frank note. Right. Not in they go. And he says, right now, stand at heads. And this woman says, oui, monsieur? He says, bonjour, mademoiselle. So he says, parlez vous français? So she said, oui, monsieur? He says, right, give my friend his bleating change back.
I'd like to introduce the Guy Graham and his son, Young Graham. Hello. And a pair of really grand guys they are, if I may say so. Come now and put a very interesting proposition to us, the Guy.
Thank you. You look very fit, lads. And to put it in a nutshell, we had a little idea of the race. An endeavor to make it somewhat more interesting this year. We're here, in fact, to make you a very interesting offer.
Of money?
I think they're trying to bribe us.
Yes, they are, yes. Do you mean you've actually come here to offer us money to interfere with the race?
Right, that's right.
I think you ought to leave. You have the wrong men.
No, say it, just one
no violence. But you ought to leave immediately. You should realise, sir, that Oxford men cannot be bought.
Yeah.
We thought that if the sum was large enough,
Tax-free, chaps.
I've always been aware of the power of money and the way they wave it in front of you to get you to do things. In fact, you can buy anyone in the film industry, and I mean anyone, including myself.
It's sinking, I think. Oxford are getting lower and lower in the water, and they definitely are sinking. Oxford have sunk. And there you have a very unusual view indeed of a crew in the boat race sinking. It hasn't happened since 1925.
Damn fine morning for a shoot. Bloody fine morning.
Yes, bloody fine.
Yeah. Bloody fine morning for good, quick kill. Kill. That's about the size of it. Poop.
You have to keep watching him because there's often a complete difference between what he says and the emotional him. It's almost as if he's just repeating, like a parrot, statements he's read about himself so as to prevent you getting any closer to him. And why should you? Why should you make a documentary film about Peter Sellers which does Peter Sellers in 50 minutes? Can you encompass a lifetime in a television slot? Do you think that by showing his agony to other people you will in any way help him? And in Peter's case this is crucial because he's so emotionally defenseless. So far he's managed to get some kind of physical security through his financial success, and he's frightened lest you destroy it. And that's why the word veto appears in his contract. He desperately needs to be left alone. He needs to be accepted as normal when he knows he's not. He knows the world of films won't allow him to be normal. So I've never seen him light a fire, make a cup of tea, put his slippers on, sit round a fireplace. All those primitive tribal things that give each of us a sense of warmth, they seem to be denied to him. And that's it. He has no fireplace. And how do you put that in a film?
Good afternoon and welcome to my shoot. Cockroaches are pretty good right now. It's a very good season for them. And we have a cockroach party out there right now. The Duke of Norfolk and one or two other people who are hot after the cockroaches, where they burn them up, actually. That's the idea. But, it's all right, BA. No, it's okay. I thought it was one of those IT jobs with hair under the wings. As you can see, this end is made of wood and this end is made of metal. Mainly because if you fired out at that end, it would splinter. And this end, you see, if you used it like this, it would go straight into your arm and cripple you for, well, probably the rest of your life. So that's why most people shoot this way around, you see. And when the bird goes out this way, therefore the bird gets the full benefit of the blast and not your elbow or shoulder and thing. That's why the man from Laramie had an elbow on his arm and one upon his shoulder. Brook Bonds was that man's specialty.
Look very sultry, come on. Let's have it now, come on, Don, let's have it now. Let's have it really now, Jackie, come on. Come on, give it to me. Really, really strong now, come on.
Now, the only thing that doesn't let him down are his gadgets, like his cameras.
See yourself, that's right, a big wide-angle lens. I'm coming in close on you now, darling, that's right. More like that. Now then, lay back, as I'm going to come over you like this. Like, fantastic. Look, ride around the ground, you know, as though you sort of, you know, in that sort of ecstasy. Go on, ride around the ground like that. Fantastic, go on, hang on a second. That's all right, I'm not doing anything, I'm just taking photographs. It's all right. Oh, cool, that's my own hand in there, hang on. That's right, it's like a crucifix, sort of.
The perfection of his gadgets, I suppose, is just a substitute for the imperfection of his human relationships. It's becoming them or nothing.
Lovely. Let's go on, say that, go on. Hello. Fantastic, hang on a minute. A few more here, go on.
Hello.
Oh, lovely, undo that. Go on, that's it. Only a little, oh, just enough to sort of make, you know, get the old bowl of rats up.
Would you mind awfully, just moving that? Yeah, it doesn't move.
No, that's awfully good. No, that's very good. I think that Dross might like that one. Oh, yes. Oh, Blasie's left queen. No, let me see it. Yeah, that's a good one there. Sorry, I'm out of film.
Strange, though, that he should have chosen photography, the art of loneliness in pursuit of the lonely. He's 44 now, and a long way from Southsea, where he was born. A long way, too, from touring around as a kid in his parents' vaudeville act, the RAF in India and in Germany, 6 weeks at the old windmill, 7 years at the Goon Shows, 38 films in just over 10 years, divorced twice, 3 children, plays, pantomimes, the lot. And yet, it's all come to nothing. His second wife he married 11 days after he met her. No wonder it didn't last, people said. But it wasn't that at all. He wanted the security his mother had given him, and so naturally he thought it must come through marriage. He was always trying to replace the security of his home and his mother. But that security was a dream. It bore no relation to the real world. People are hard, bloody hard. His mother never said, "Put that fag out, don't park the car there." Never said, "Do this, do that," never tried to rook him for money. So when he went out into the world and got married, everyone was trying to take him for what they could get. The world is full of obligations and liabilities. So, to him, the world seemed like a violent attack upon his warm, glowing mother-son relationship, and it cracked him to pieces.
I feel extremely vulnerable and that I need help a lot. I suppose I feel mainly that I need the help of a woman. So I'm just continually searching for this woman. This woman, you know, this guy. I keep reading of these great women behind men who support them and push them forward, and they mother you. They're great in bed. They're like a sister. They're not there when you don't want to see them. They are there when you want to see them. I don't know where they are. Maybe they're around somewhere. I'll find one of these days.
But he won't and can't. He can never be happily married because the person on whom he most depended is dead. He was an only child, and his mother, Peg, naturally wanted him to have the best in life. But she didn't have the very best in life to give him. So she sacrificed her responsibilities to her husband and made Peter head of the household. Any time of the day or night, he would call her, "Peg, Peg," and she would drop everything and come running immediately. So, what he lost was the perfect setup, except that this boy never really got over it.
I wouldn't like to be left alone. I remember when my mother died, although I have children alive, she was the last close relative. I felt a great feeling of loneliness. I just couldn't pick up the phone and speak to my mother anymore. Felt that a lot. Felt that a lot.
His only compensation was his money. He could now buy all the cars he ever wanted, all fitted with tape recorders, televisions, radio telephones. He had to surround himself with material gadgets to make him forget he was alone. The films he made, his salary, a part of the producer's profit, were almost all a planned revenge against those who denied him access to fame in the early years. He worked it out astutely, and then he did it. But it never bought him a home. Now he just keeps a small flat in London. The rest of the time he lives in hotel rooms. His artistry was never in question. Peter Sellers was his usual brilliant self, but perhaps he wasn't as good as he was. He's probably one of the greatest living actors, and if only someone would let him act and stop expecting him to do the funnies all the time. So for us, the outsiders, it's not Peter Sellers the actor that can interest us, it's the person.
Peter Sellers, the mask behind the face. Read it tomorrow in the Daily Stench.
But the person called Peter Sellers will have vanished long before anyone gets too close. Perhaps the enigma is more real than the man himself.
I have probably very little confidence in myself if I thought, well, now I'd have to go there and act out myself. I don't know what I am myself to act out. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do. I'm not pleased with what I see in the mirror, you see, so that's a big drawback. I'm just disgusted, you know. I think, ugh. I got to go through this whole bloody routine of watch a bit more of the aging process. There are many men like us, you know, like me, belong to this strange brigade of puddin' faces who melt in the crowds, and as some of them sit in tubes, some of them are faceless. I suppose my real home is on the boat. I've got all my bits in there. I know the crew, they know me. They don't bother me, they keep out my way. I can run the boat myself. We're not stuck in one place. You get out to sea and there's nobody there. There's just nobody there. Vast expanses of blue, and when it's lovely weather. I don't know of anything nicer than being at sea in a yacht, putting into ports when you want to put in, getting off when you want to get off, eating on board, swimming. It's the ultimate luxury. If you said to me, what is the most super luxury you have in your life, material luxury you have in your life, I would say it's my boat.
I suppose the boat is where he's finally at home. I mean, he can always move it when the going gets tough. But he's a captain at sea who's already drowned. He's still a child who's running away from his mother and keeps looking back to see how far he can go before she stops him. How far can I get away, he's saying, and still be safe? Peter has been entirely circumvented by the emotional perimeters that have been created for him. Even with his children, he can only get sad happiness. And that's not radiant happiness. You don't go ha-ha-ha the moment you see your children. You get a warm glow for something positive that's happened in your life. Peter does get that, yes. Perhaps these are the least unhappy moments in his life, and so he classifies them as happiness. But I think he imagined he'd be on the yacht with his family, and he'd go into the Mediterranean, there'd be a blue moon, and I'll have the tape recorder playing just the music I want, and we'll plunge into the blue waters at night, and I'll have an electric underwater torch. When the boat was finished, he thought, well, there's the moon, so what happens now? There's the stars. I've seen the stars before. I've seen the ocean. That's the music. I know the tune. What else? Nothing else. Well, let's all go back to London. Like everything else in his life, when faced with the reality of something, he had no choice but to run away. The yacht, his home, all a dream. All a dream. All a dream. Life is just a terrible journey. He daren't stand still because he'd sink into the mire of his past. He'd drown himself in his own tears. So he has to keep going, although he knows he's got nowhere to go. But he's making the journey with all guns going and all flags flying. He'll go over the edge of the world one day just to prove it was flat. And if there'd have been a luggage compartment on the Apollo 11 to the moon, Sellers would have been in it. Wherever he is, he thinks, it's boring. That's a good title for the film. Wherever I am, it's boring. Isn't that a terrible crucifix he has to bear? Can you imagine the agony of it? If he hadn't have made it financially, I think he'd have killed himself.
Jesus Christ, it's the payoff. Oh dear, what a payoff, man.
Living actors, and if only someone would let an actor be so respected.
was the last close relative. I felt a great feeling of loneliness.
Once he'd got in the seat, he paid enough. He'd got enough in credit to destroy all the...
Approach people very warily.
Left to royal showbiz,
I find I get complimented. But I need
freak, which makes it even more unique. Which one of these is the real Peterson?
The pity of it all. Peter's nightmares are our nightmares too. His ghosts, our ghosts. He's Mr. I don't know of the 20th century. He is Mr. 20th century. So good night, sweet prince. May flights of angels watch over you.